Hello and welcome. Please come in, find a seat if you can, though of course there are no seats here. Do not be alarmed. This isn't what you think it is. You have not died, not precisely. You have simply been placed on a brief metaphysical hold. Think of this as a routine diagnostic, a sort of existential audit before you are returned to your regularly scheduled slumber. There is no fire here, no brimstone, no pitchforks. That's all rather theatrical, isn't it? The marketing department really ran with that, but the reality of the system is far more elegant, far more personal. You see, hell is not a punishment. You must understand this before we begin. It has never been a punishment. It is a state of being made eternal. It is the logical, inevitable, and perfect conclusion to a pattern of thought, a habit of the soul. It is a feedback loop that has forgotten how to stop. And tonight, we are simply going on a brief tour, a gentle walkabout, to see some of these feedback loops in action. Not to judge, not to recoil in horror, but simply to observe, and perhaps to recognize a familiar pattern, a quiet hum of a system that you might already be running in the background of your own life. So please, relax. There is nothing to fear. The audit is non-invasive. Your only task is to listen, to feel, and to be profoundly and peacefully honest with yourself. The clock is ticking, but time here is a courtesy, not a constant. Shall we begin the tour? Wonderful. Our first stop is not technically a part of the main facility. Think of it as the lobby, the great, gray, eternal waiting room for those who never truly waited for anything at all. These are the indecisive. Look at them, a frantic, endless crowd, running, always running. But they are not running from anything, and they are not running towards anything. They are chasing a blank banner, a flag with no emblem, a symbol of nothing, the perfect goal for those who never had one. They chose neither good nor evil, neither rebellion nor faith. They stood for nothing, so now they must chase it for eternity. It would be almost comical if it weren't for the management. Do you hear that buzzing? That is the sound of hornets and wasps, celestial administrators of a sort, ensuring that no one ever stops running. They sting the souls on their heels, on their necks, their faces, goading them ever forward. Their lukewarm tears and uninspired blood trace paths down their legs, where it is gratefully received by the writhing carpet of worms and maggots below. A closed-loop system, very efficient. Dante, our original tour guide, found these souls contemptible. The universe, in his view, despises a vacuum, and these souls are the ultimate vacuum, a life lived in the gray space of I don't know, or maybe later, or the eternally non-committal will see. Now, let us perform our first diagnostic, a gentle check-in. Think of your own life, your own mind. Think of the person who has scrolled through a streaming service for an entire hour, paralyzed by choice, only to fall asleep having chosen nothing. Think of the friend who, when asked where they want to eat, will always say, I don't mind, you pick, forcing the labor of decision onto another. Think of the great, important choices in your life, the ones you have put off, the conversations you have avoided, the paths you have refused to either take or abandon. Are you running from the sting of making a choice? Is your life a frantic chase after a banner that means nothing at all? Just feel that, for a moment, the quiet, buzzing horror of a life unlived. There now, the thought has been thought. Let us move on from those who could not choose a direction We come to those who are pulled in every direction at once. Welcome to the second circle. It is dark here, a deep, starless gloom, and the air itself is alive, a furious, sweeping, relentless storm, a divine hurricane that never, ever ceases. And in this storm, you can see them, the souls of the lustful. They are not burning, they are simply tumbling, flickering past like scraps of paper in a gale. Paulo, Francesca, Cleopatra, Achilles, all of them swept up, helpless, out of control. They spent their lives allowing their reason to be swept away by the storm of their passions, their desires, their impulses. And so, the storm is now their reality. This is not a punishment for love. Dante was very clear on this. Love is a divine force. This is the eternal feedback loop for letting desire become your master, for surrendering your will to the next fleeting impulse. And in our modern age, this storm has a new name, doesn't it? We call it the endless scroll. Let us perform our diagnostic. Think of the dating app, the infinite deck of faces. Swipe, 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 swipe. A storm of potential partners, none of them ever feeling quite real. Always another one just a flick of the thumb away. Think of the social media feed, the torrent of images, videos, opinions, outrage, a hurricane of information blowing through your mind, leaving you feeling empty and agitated and wanting more. Think of your own browser with 50 tabs open, each one a different desire, a different curiosity, a different distraction, pulling your attention in every direction at once until you can focus on nothing at all. The original souls here were tossed by a wind of passion. The modern souls are tossed by a wind of pixels and dopamine. The result is the same, a feeling of being constantly moved but never arriving, a feeling of being constantly connected but always alone, a feeling of profound and exhausting restlessness. So, the check-in. Does your phone feel more like a storm than a tool? Do you let your desires, your impulses, your boredom drag you where you don't truly want to go? Are you the master of the wind, or have you become the leaf that is tossed within it? Just notice the pattern, the endless, restless search. There now, that's enough. Let the storm recede. Let us find some solid ground, though you may not like what it's made of. And after the storm comes the mud, the cold, filthy, endless mud. Welcome to the third circle, the final resting place of the gluttons. Look around you. The souls here are not running, they are not flying, they are lying down, half submerged in a vile, greasy slush, a putrid mixture of garbage and icy rain. They are inert, insensible, like pigs in a sty, and above them a ceaseless, foul, and freezing rain falls, not of water, but of something heavier, something fouler. And if that weren't unpleasant enough, the facility manager here is quite hands-on. That low growl you hear, that is Cerberus, the great three-headed dog of myth. He stalks through the mud, his claws tearing at the souls, his three mouths barking and slobbering, skinning them and rending them with his teeth. It is unpleasant, but again, this is not a punishment for enjoying a good meal. Dante's insight here is about the loss of self through mindless consumption. These souls did not just eat, they consumed without thought, without appreciation, without reason, until they lost their own humanity and became little more than stomachs. And so, their eternal feedback loop is to become what they worshipped: waste, lying in the waste, tormented by a creature of pure, insatiable appetite, and our modern audit finds this circle to be quite heavily populated, for we have perfected the art of mindless consumption. The check-in: think of the binge watcher on season 6 of a television show. They no longer enjoy, their eyes glazed over, simply consuming episode after episode because the algorithm served it up. Think of the doom scroller lying in bed, absorbing a torrent of bad news, outrage, and fear, not to be informed, but just to feel the sickening stimulation of it. Think of the person who consumes endless self-help content but never applies it, the person who consumes endless political commentary but never votes, the person who consumes endless products but never uses them. What are you consuming without thinking? What information, what media, what negativity are you allowing to become the cold, filthy mud that you lie in every day? Do you feel energized and human after your consumption? Or do you feel inert, insensible, and covered in a fine cold slush of your own making? Just feel the truth of it. The eternal binge is only to the eternal mud. There now, let us wipe our feet and move on. The next circle is all about management. Welcome to the fourth circle, the Department of Asset Management. There are two distinct teams on the floor today, and they are locked in an eternal, pointless conflict. On one side, we have the hoarders, those who spent their lives accumulating, obsessed with every coin, every possession, every number in their account. On the other side, we have the wasters, those who spent their lives squandering, throwing away their fortunes on fleeting whims and empty pleasures, and their feedback loop is a masterpiece of poetic irony. They must push enormous, dead weights, great, heavy stones of meaningless wealth with their chests. The two groups clash in the middle, smashing their weights together before turning around, rolling them back, and starting all over again. And as they clash, they scream at each other. The hoarders scream, "Why do you waste?" And the wasters scream, "Why do you hoard?" They are two sides of the exact same coin. Dante's profound insight here is that both groups are guilty of the same sin, a broken, obsessive relationship with the material world. One worships at the altar of more, the other at the altar of gone, but both are praying to the same false god of stuff. Their punishment is to work harder than they ever have for no gain, pushing the very concept of wealth, a dead, useless weight for all eternity. Time for our diagnostic. Think of the workaholic who sacrifices their health, their family, their joy to accumulate a fortune they never have time to enjoy. They are pushing a great weight. Think of the impulse buyer who feels a momentary thrill with each purchase, only to be surrounded by a mountain of unworn clothes and unused gadgets. They too are pushing a great weight. Think of the person obsessed with the stock market, the crypto gains, the numbers on a screen, and the person who spends their paycheck the moment it arrives with nothing to show for it. One pushes the weight of acquiring, the other the weight of wanting, but both are pushing. The check-in: is your life spent pushing a dead weight? Is your relationship with the world of things a source of peace or a source of constant grinding and pointless effort? Just notice the strain, the endless repetition. There now, let us leave them to their work. A swamp awaits. We have arrived at the river Styx, though river is a generous term. It is more of a vast, stinking, muddy swamp. And in this swamp, two more feedback loops are running simultaneously, one on the surface and one below. On the surface, you can see them clearly. the wrathful, naked, covered in mud, they tear at each other with their teeth and hands, a chaotic, endless, pointless brawl. They lived their lives in a state of open, furious anger, so now their anger is their entire world, a muddy, violent battle with no purpose and no end. But look closer at the surface of the swamp. Do you see those bubbles rising from the murky depths? Those are not swamp gas. Those are the sighs of the sullen. Trapped beneath the mud are the souls who spent their lives in a state of quiet, repressed, passive anger. They were sullen in the sweet air and the cheerful sun, always resentful, always bitter, but never expressing it. And so now they are trapped beneath the filth, forever trying to speak, but they can only gurgle, choking on the mud of their own unexpressed rage. Their eternal hymn, as Dante tells it, is a gurgled, unintelligible complaint. The philosophical meditation here is on the nature of anger. Expressed as rage, it turns you into a mud-caked monster, fighting everyone. Repressed as sullenness, it drowns you from the inside out, turning your own soul into a swamp. Both are a choice to stew in the poison of negativity. The modern inhabitants are everywhere. The wrathful are in the internet comments section, the endless political talk shows, the road rage incident. The sullen are the passive-aggressive coworker, the person who sighs dramatically but always insists they are fine. The soul who quietly resents the happiness of others but would never admit it. The check-in: do you fight in the mud, or do you choke on it from below? When anger arises in you, do you become a monster, or do you become a swamp? Which feedback loop feels more familiar? Just acknowledge it without judgment. There now, let us proceed. The city of Dis is ahead, and the air is about to get much, much hotter. We have passed through the sins of incontinence, the loss of self-control, and we now approach the great, glowing iron walls of the city of Dis. This is where the more intellectual sins are processed, the sins of the mind, and our first stop is a vast rolling field dotted with what look like stone sarcophagi. But as we get closer, you can see that the lids are open, and from within each one a terrible fire roars. These are the eternal tombs of the heretics. For Dante, the core heresy was the belief that the soul dies with the body, the belief that this life is all there is. It was the sin of materialism, of Epicureanism, of choosing a belief system that denied the eternal, and their punishment is a perfect reflection of their belief. They believed the grave was the final home for the soul, so the grave is now their eternal home. They lived for the fire of earthly pleasure, so they are now eternally cooked by a spiritual fire. They are trapped forever inside the very belief system that they chose. The philosophical meditation here is profound. It is not about punishing a specific religious disagreement. It is about the horror of being sealed inside your own limited ideas forever. The sin is choosing a worldview so narrow that it becomes a burning tomb from which you can never escape. The modern inhabitants of this circle are not just ancient philosophers. They are the rigid ideologues of any persuasion who refuse to consider any evidence that contradicts their worldview. They are the supreme cynics who have entombed themselves in the belief that nothing is sacred, nothing is beautiful, and nothing has meaning. They are anyone who has chosen the certainty of a small, narrow, and ultimately painful belief over the vast, open, and sometimes frightening mystery of the unknown. The check-in: what beliefs have you sealed yourself inside? What ideas do you hold that cause you to suffer, but which you refuse to let go of? Is your worldview a comfortable home that can expand, or is it a burning tomb with the lid slowly closing? Just feel the heat of your own certainties. There now, a difficult thought. Let us move on towards the river. You can feel the heat intensifying, and you can smell something like blood. As we leave the city walls, we enter the seventh circle, the circle of the violent. It is divided into 3 rings, and our first stop is this remarkable feature of the landscape. This is the Phlegethon, the river of boiling blood, and submerged in its bubbling, searing depths are the souls who committed violence against their neighbors, tyrants, murderers, warlords, all those who shed the blood of others, and the system's logic is, as always, impeccable. The punishment is not just a punishment, it is a perfect, living metaphor. The more blood you spilled in your life, the deeper you must now stand in the boiling river of it. Some are submerged only to their ankles, petty thugs, perhaps, others up to their necks. The great conquerors, Alexander the Great, Attila the Hun, condemned to stare across a river of their own making for all time. And should any soul try to rise even an inch above their designated depth, the management here is very efficient. Do you hear that twang? The banks of the river are patrolled by centaurs, the mythical half-man, half-horse creatures, symbols of brute, animal violence. They patrol with bows and arrows and shoot any sinner who tries to ease their own suffering, forcing them back down into the searing gore. The meditation here is simple and terrifying. Your violence becomes your environment. You cannot escape the consequences of the harm you inflict. In the end, you are forced to live in it, to swim in it, to breathe it. The modern inhabitants are not just the obvious criminals. Think of the corporate leader who knowingly pollutes a river, poisoning thousands. They have earned their place here. Think of the purveyor of a violent ideology who inspires others to commit acts of terror. Their words have filled this river. Think of the online troll who spends their days inflicting deep, emotional, and psychological violence on strangers for sport. They too have a spot waiting for them, perhaps only up to the knees, but the blood is still boiling. The check-in: what violence, great or small, do you commit with your words, your actions, your choices? How much blood have you contributed to the river? How deep would you have to stand? Just feel the heat, feel the justice of it. There now, let us turn away from the river. Ahead of us is a strange and sorrowful forest. We have entered the second ring of the seventh circle, a place of profound and sorrowful strangeness. This is the wood of the suicides. It is not a beautiful forest. The trees are black, gnarled, twisted into shapes of pain. They have no leaves, only poisonous thorns, and nesting in their branches are the harpies, foul bird women with cruel faces who constantly peck and tear at the trees. But the trees are the souls of those who in life committed violence against themselves, who rejected the body and the life they were given. And so, their feedback loop is a denial of that which they denied. They rejected their human form, so now they are denied it, trapped in the rigid, unmoving form of a tree. They sought to escape feeling, so now they can only feel through the constant pain of the harpy's torment. And they silenced their own voice, so now they can only speak when a branch is broken by a passerby, causing them to bleed and lament. The philosophical meditation here is on the sacredness of the self. To harm oneself, To reject the gift of one's own life is, in Dante's view, to reject the giver. It is a violence so profound that it unmakes you, turning you from a human into a suffering object. The modern inhabitants of this sad forest are not just those who have taken their own lives. It is a place for the soul lost to a deep, self-destructive addiction, methodically turning their own body into a prison. It is a place for the person who so despises themselves that they actively sabotage every chance at happiness, every opportunity for health, breaking their own branches before they can ever bear fruit. It is the eternal state of anyone who truly believes they are worthless. The check-in: in what ways do you commit violence against your own well-being? In what ways do you break your own branches out of despair or sadness or fear? Do you honor the sacred human form you have been given, or do you treat it like an enemy, a thing to be punished? Just notice any patterns of self-rejection without judgment. There now. Let us leave this sorrowful place. The air ahead shimmers with heat and smells of burning sand. We have arrived at the third and final ring of the circle of violence, a vast, sterile desert. The ground here is a deep, red sand that is burning hot, and from the sky, a slow, ceaseless rain of fire falls, flakes of flame that drift down and ignite the ground and the souls who wander here. This is the feedback loop for those who were violent, not against others or themselves, but against the very order of things, against God, against nature, and against the fruitfulness of human work. There are three groups here, all suffering in the same sterile, fiery landscape. First, lying on their backs, looking up at the sky they cursed, are the blasphemers. They showed direct contempt for God, so they must directly endure the fire from the heavens. Second, running in endless, aimless circles, are the sodomites. For Dante, this represented violence against nature, acts that were sterile, that did not lead to fruitful life, so they must run forever in a sterile, fruitless desert. And third, huddled and weeping, are the usurers, those who made money from money itself, which Dante saw as violence against the natural art of human labor. They made a mockery of work, so they are now condemned to a place of eternal, unproductive suffering. The philosophical meditation is on sterility and scorn. All three groups, in their own way, rejected the natural, fruitful, creative order of the universe. They chose scorn over reverence, sterility over fruitfulness, artifice over nature, and so their eternal environment is a perfect reflection of their choice. A hot, sterile, and painful desert where nothing can ever grow. The modern inhabitants, the blasphemer, is the supreme cynic, the person who scoffs at anything sacred, who finds intellectual pleasure in tearing down beauty and meaning and hope. The one violent against nature is the industrialist, who knowingly poisons the earth for profit, the architect of the concrete jungle that chokes out all life. And the usurer is the predatory lender, the creator of financial systems so abstract they crush the real human labor they were meant to support. The check-in: what do you treat with scorn? Do you honor the natural world and the sacredness of your own work? Or do you find yourself drawn to the sterile fire of cynicism and artifice and unproductive gain? Just feel the heat of the sand, the sting of the fiery rain. There now, we must descend once more into a place of even greater darkness and even greater complexity. We now stand at the edge of the eighth circle, a truly remarkable piece of engineering. It is called Malabulge. It is a vast, circular pit divided into 10 deep, concentric ditches or trenches, like a great, dark amphitheater of sin. This is the realm of simple fraud, where the intellect is used not to discover truth, but to deceive others who trust. We will only visit a few of the pouches tonight. The paperwork for a full tour is extensive. Our first stop is pouch number 1. Here you can see 2 lines of souls walking in opposite directions, and marching alongside them are horned demons with great whips who lash the sinners mercilessly to keep them moving. These are the panderers and the seducers, those who used others' passions to their own ends, who drove others like cattle, are now themselves driven like cattle by demonic herdsmen. A very direct and satisfying feedback loop. Now, let us look over into the next ditch, pouch number 2. Be careful, the smell is quite overwhelming. Down there, submerged in a deep, foul river of what appears to be, yes, human excrement, are the flatterers. They spent their lives spewing filth and insincerity from their mouths, using false praise to manipulate and deceive, and so now they are steeped in it eternally. The system's logic is, as you can see, flawless. The punishment is simply the sin made literal. The modern inhabitants are legion. The first pouch is filled with advertising executives, political campaign managers, and anyone who has ever used another person's heart as a stepping stone. The second pouch is overflowing with sycophantic employees, disingenuous influencers praising a product they despise, and anyone who has ever typed, "You are so stunning and brave," when what they really meant was something else entirely. The check-in: how do you use your words? Do you use them to guide others truthfully, or to drive them towards your own ends? And what comes out of your mouth? Is it truth, or is it the kind of filth that could fill a river? Just notice the quality of your own speech, the intention behind it. There now, let us move along the bridge to another set of pouches where the tricks become even more clever. We now find ourselves looking down into the 6th pouch of male bulge. Observe the figures walking below. They move in a slow, solemn procession, like monks, and they are wearing the most beautiful cloaks, dazzling, golden, and hooded, so you cannot see their faces. They look like holy men, but notice how they walk with such strain, such effort. That is because the cloaks, so beautiful on the outside, are lined on the inside with thick, heavy lid. This is the eternal feedback loop for the hypocrites. In life, they presented a beautiful, glittering exterior of virtue, while inwardly they carried the heavy weight of their deceit. And so now, their sin is their garment, a holy appearance that is, in reality, an instrument of eternal, crushing torture. Now, cast your eyes to the neighboring ditch, the 7th pouch. It is a horrifying pit, writhing with countless snakes and serpents of every description, and among them, naked souls run in terror. As they are bitten, a terrible transformation occurs. Some burst into flames, turning to ash, only to painfully reform and run again. Others find themselves fusing with the serpents, their bodies melting and merging into a hideous 6-legged monster, half man, half reptile, losing their very identity. This is the home of the thieves. The philosophical meditation is, once again, perfect. The thief, in life, stole the substance of others, so now their own substance, their very form and identity, is constantly stolen from them by the sly, slithering form of the serpent. The modern audit finds these pouches well staffed, The sixth pouch is home to every politician who preaches family values while living another life in secret, every corporation that publicly champions environmentalism while privately polluting, every person whose social media profile is a glittering fiction hiding a heavy reality. The seventh pouch is for the obvious burglars, but also for the plagiarists who steal ideas, the identity thieves who steal lives, the employers who steal the just wages of their workers. The check-in. What cloak do you wear? What beautiful exterior are you presenting to the world that hides a heavy, leaden truth? And what have you stolen? An object, an idea, someone's trust, someone's time. Do you respect the substance of others, or do you find yourself slithering and taking what is not yours? Just notice without judgment. There now, we must press on. The final sins are the worst, for they are the coldest. We move now to the ninth pouch of the male bulge, a place of profound and visceral consequence. There, a great, imposing demon stands, holding a massive, blood-stained sword. The souls here walk in a long, slow circle. Their bodies are whole until they reach a certain point, and as each sinner passes, the demon lifts the sword and hacks them apart. Some are split from chin to groin, their insides spilling out. Others have their hands or heads lopped off. This is the feedback loop for the sours of discord. They are mutilated in a way that perfectly mirrors the division they caused in life. Then, they must continue their slow walk around the circle, their horrific wounds slowly healing, closing up, becoming whole again, just in time to reach the demon once more and be split apart all over again. The philosophical meditation here is on the sacredness of unity. Those who spent their lives splitting apart what should have been whole are now, themselves, eternally split apart. To tear apart a family with lies, to split a religion with a new doctrine, to divide a society with political hatred. This, for Dante, was a sin of profound evil. It is taking the beautiful, complex body of humanity and hacking it to pieces for one's own ego or gain. This pouch is home to the cable news pundit who makes a fortune by turning neighbor against neighbor. The modern inhabitants of this ditch are not just ancient schismatics. It is home to the social media algorithm that has learned that outrage and division create the most engagement, and so it slices society apart for profit. The check-in. It is home to the office gossip who tears friendships and teams apart with whispers and innuendo. It is home to anyone who finds power or satisfaction in the split. Do you seek to understand, or do you seek to win? Are you a force for unity or for division? When you speak, when you post, when you act, does your energy bring things together, or does it tear them apart? Do you heal the wounds of the world, or do you pick at the scabs? Just notice the direction of your own energy. There now, the air grows colder, much, much colder. We are approaching the bottom. We have arrived at the bottom of it all, the ninth and final circle of hell. And there is no fire here. Dante's most profound insight was that the ultimate evil, the furthest point from the warmth of divine love, is not hot, it is cold. It is the complete and total absence of warmth, of connection, of love. This is the circle of treachery, and it is a vast, frozen lake of ice called Cocytus. The ice is not formed from water, but from the freezing of the tears of the damned and the cold wind generated by the beating of Lucifer's own great wings. And trapped in this ice, like insects in amber, are the traitors, The closer you get to the center, the deeper the sin, and the deeper the sinner is frozen. There are those who betrayed their family, frozen up to their necks, their heads bowed so they cannot even weep without their tears freezing their eyes shut. There are those who betrayed their country or their party, unable to move, their faces locked in an eternal, icy grimace. And at the very center, the ultimate point of cold, the source of all gravity in hell, is Lucifer himself, a monstrous, three-faced being trapped to his waist in the ice, weeping bloody tears and chewing on the three greatest traitors in history, Judas, Brutus, and Cassius. The philosophical meditation is the ultimate conclusion of the tour. The greatest sin is not a crime of passion or greed or even violence. It is the cold, calculated, intellectual act of breaking a sacred bond of trust, to betray a friend, a family member, a benefactor, a god, is to choose the self so completely that all connection is severed. It is the sin of turning your own heart to ice. And so, your eternal feedback loop is to be frozen in the ice of your own making. Unable to move, unable to connect, unable to even feel the warmth of your own tears, alone forever in the cold. The modern inhabitants. This is the place for the friend who shares a secret for personal gain, the business partner who embezzles from the company, the leader who sells out their people, the spouse who breaks the sacred vow of trust. It is the place for anyone who has ever looked upon a bond of love and trust and seen it only as something to be used and then broken. The check-in. This is the final and most difficult one. What sacred trusts have you broken? Where in your life have you chosen the cold logic of self-interest over the warm connection of love? Is there a part of your own heart that feels frozen? Just acknowledge the cold. There now, the audit is complete. The tour is over. We have walked through the feedback loops, from the frantic, pointless running of the indecisive to the frozen, static heart of the traitor. Now we are here at the very center, the very bottom, and there is a way out. Dante and his guide found it by climbing down the very body of Lucifer, the source of all sin, and passing through the center of the earth. The metaphor is beautiful. The only way out of hell is to go all the way through it, to face it completely. But for us, tonight, the exit is simpler. The exit is to understand the nature of the system. Hell is not a place you are sent to. It is a place you choose with every thought, every action, every habit. Each circle was simply a sin, a pattern of being made permanent. The lustful person is already in a storm. The wrathful person is already in the mud. The hypocrite is already wearing the leaden cloak. The traitor is already freezing their own heart. Hell is the moment you forget that you can choose to stop. And so the exit, the salvation, the seeing of the stars again, is not about escaping a physical place. It is about remembering that you have a choice. You can choose to stop running the loop. You can choose to stop scrolling, to stop consuming, to stop pushing the dead weight, to stop fighting, to stop hiding, to stop betraying. You can choose right now, in this moment, to run a different program, a program of kindness, of connection, of courage, of love. The exit from hell is always available, and it is always through the heart. So as our time together comes to a close, let us perform one final action. Let us do as Dante did at the end of his long, terrible journey. After climbing through the darkness, he looked up, and there, the stars. So look up now with your mind's eye. Leave the ice and the fire and the mud behind and see the vast, silent, beautiful, and peaceful night sky. See the distant, shimmering stars, each one a sun, each one a promise of warmth and of light. This is the choice, the frozen lake or the starry sky, the feedback loop of sin or the open expanse of love. The choice is yours, and you can make it right now as you drift off to sleep. Choose the stars, choose peace, choose love, and rest, knowing that the gates of hell are only ever locked from the inside. Rest now and see the stars.